for agreeing to come to us down here at the legislature. You were very vocal when the construction companies in the lead up to 2010 colluded in as far as the tenders that would come out in relation to the building or the construction of the World Cup Stadium. At that time, you made it clear. You said that collusion has got to be seen as corruption, and corruption is collusion. What did you mean by that? And more importantly, what has been done to ensure that the cartels that we have seen and we continue to see fixing prices, there are laws put in place to ensure that the people there don't just pay fines, but they ultimately end up in jail?
Well, look, if you go back to May 2016, there was actually an amendment that was done to the Competition Act that actually criminalized cartel behavior and said that we need to see people implicated being prosecuted and sent to prison. Now the question is, when you already have a legislation like that in place, why is it that we have not seen anyone being sent to prison? That is also the question we're asking, because we do have law enforcement agencies in this country. But from where we stand, we think that there's a lack of a political will to really deal with corruption. Because, look, it's difficult to deal with corruption when, let's take today for an example. We have seen a former National Commissioner of the Police appearing in court on corruption allegations. In the last couple of weeks and months, we have seen 2 offices of our premiers in some of the provinces being raided by the hawks investigating corruption. When you have just appointed a commission of inquiry to look into state capture, that implicates a former sitting president of the republic, then you can have a sense as to why we find ourselves where we are with regards to corruption. We have legislations in place that have not been tested yet. Now, we lack the political will. Until such time we have the political will, then we can go back and say maybe the laws that are in place are inadequate. But it's difficult to actually say that those laws are inadequate because they have not been tested.
Is the current administration led by President Cyril Ramaphosa, every day we are hearing about the new dawn? It's become a new catchphrase in the country. This new dawn, do you think it is going to be the one that capacitates the criminal justice system so that it is seen to be doing what it is mandated to do, and that is to investigate people, prosecute and throw them into jail? Do you think that this new administration has that?
It's too early to tell, especially because if you listen to them closely, they talk about private corruption as an afterthought in the private sector. They are focused on state capture. We welcome that. We are very happy. They are very clear on fighting corruption in government. We are very excited. But we are yet to hear them speaking out forcefully and openly against private sector corruption. And so far, everything they have done has actually left us skeptical as to whether do they have the political will and the stamina to take on the private sector. Because for us, we want private sector corruption to be treated like we do. Currently, we are very happy with the attitude, not just of our law enforcement agencies, but of the political leadership in this country with regards to dealing with issues of state capture, dealing with the issues of government corruption. But we want the same appetite, the same passion to be showcased by this new administration when it comes to fighting staying off. No one seems to have an appetite to actually say, Christoph Wiese and all of those people implicated, they themselves, we should make sure that they do not get rid of their assets before the investigations have been finalized. They are being allowed, they are selling their private jets, game farms, and no one has an appetite to actually pursue them. Now, with these latest developments with regards to Tiger Brands, you listen to what they are saying about this. They are not dealing with this as an issue of corruption. They are dealing it as an issue of healthcare, as if the Department of Health needs to do more. No, government and law enforcement agencies need to do more to actually make sure that they hold those leaders in these companies accountable.
Let me bring it back very quickly. We are out of time, but I've got to bring it back to the public sector, corruption in government. Yeah. Does this new administration show or weaken this passion that you're talking about when the president of the country and that of the ANC is seen embracing, a warm embrace, with the person who stands accused of killing 143 people through the negligence by the Department of Health, which she led, Xoli Mngambi. Does that give confidence to the public when he is seen to be embracing a person like that in public?
Well, look, Xoli Mngambi is still an activist of the ANC, so it's difficult to really dictate, or it doesn't look good. From where we stand, it doesn't look good because the ANC and its administration, they have an image problem. You would have expected that people like Comrade Xoli Mngambi, of course, they should be allowed to continue to actively participate in the programs of the ANC. But when we are trying...
In the hope of winning votes?
No. Look, she actually lost her job, meaning that she's already been punished already. She's been subjected to a commission where she was made to account. And there are still investigations to look into whether more charges need to be proffered. But the argument we're making is that, look, rather than focus on whether being seen with Comrade Xoli in public is a big deal or not, let's talk about why keep people like Nomvula Mokonyane in the cabinet. That is the big worry more than being seen with a comrade of the ANC. Comrade Nomvula has liquidated that department. He has looted that department, and she's still part of the cabinet. That is what worries us about the lip service. Because for us, we have made it very clear as COSATU, we want action. There is no honeymoon period. As long as President Cyril Ramaphosa keeps people like Nomvula, Comrade Nomvula, keep people like Comrade Malusi Gigaba in that cabinet, the new dawn era will be still born.
Finally, I know I'm probably being shouted at in the office, but you've got to answer this question. COSATU itself is no angel when it comes to corruption. One of your affiliates, the NUM, is seen as having been in bed with those, or endorsed the decision rather, to buy Optimum Coal by the Guptas. Look at where the workers are there today. Corruption inside the transport union, SATAU. Is COSATU doing the same in as far as cleaning up inside the house?
No. I'm not going to, because I don't have the details of the Optimum deal. I would rather leave the NUM to really answer that because they have more detail. But on corruption, we are clear. In fact, you can go and look. Last week, we released a statement after the CC where we were making it very clear that we are actually stopping calling it business unionism inside our unions. We are calling it trade union corruption. And the CC has given us a mandate to make sure that we fight and defeat it. And if it means we are going to go and work with the workers, the owners of the trade unions, to root out corruption in our unions, that's what we're going to do. Because it's not just a question of COSATU unions. No, it's a trade unions all across the board. And if trade unions do not want to be honest to deal with corruption, then we will not have trade unions in few years to come. So as COSATU, we are very comfortable with our stance on corruption. In fact, we want to make this clear that we have a campaign as mandated by the Central Committee last year and the CEC to root out corruption in all of our trade unions. And we are going to do, starting with Sepau and Mr. Isaac Shongwe, who have already identified as the first target to clean out corruption in our unions.
All right, very strong words. Thank you very much for your time. Sizwe Phamla, the spokesperson for COSATU there. Jeremy, well, I think you've heard it for yourself. It's not business unionism, it's rather corruption in the trade unions. I think they're speaking very tough, and they're happy to also name names inside their very own affiliates, Jeremy. Well, that's COSATU for the time being. Jeremy.